Pedal up that hill. It'll be worth the thrill if you got the power of will to bike and camp and chill. And bike and camp and chill.
And we're back. We're going to talk about why we love adventure cycling today. I'm pretty excited for this one.
What is adventure cycling?
Yeah, what is it? We've been talking a lot about it. I think adventure cycling is a good umbrella term. A lot of things fall under it. You know, you have the Adventure Cycling Association, which does a lot of cycle touring, route developing, and all that. So they kind of own that term in some ways. Like if you Google it, you're going to see a lot of their stuff. But I think it is a perfect way to explain getting out, riding a bike, exploring. I guess simply you could just say exploring on a bike, because it's not always camping or touring or long distance or overnight. I think the term that we now see a lot of is all-terrain cycling, which to me kind of means the same as what I thought when I would think of adventure is if I'm adventuring on a bike, I'm going to go exploring on my bike for the day. Maybe I have a rough plan, maybe I don't, but I'm going to try to ride everything I come across. Maybe I'm going on an all-day ride and it's mostly pavement, but then off to the side I see some trail that I didn't even know was there. And you better bet I'm going to go try to take my bike on it and check it out. So I think it's more about just being able to traverse whatever you come across, or I guess be prepared for whatever might come. When you're talking about adventure or exploring, isn't that the point of an adventure? Like when I think of adventure, I think of being surprised in some way. This is even when I've gone on hikes or backpacking or gone in the wilderness or even done some of these bikepacking routes in the past. There's so much information now. You could pull the entire route up. You could watch videos. You could plan it all out. Here's where I'm going to eat. Here's everything I'm going to bring. But I try not to go too far in that direction because I want some of it to be a surprise. I want to be prepared enough that I'm not going to be in danger. I want to be prepared enough that I'm going to have what I might need, whether it's repair or just at least knowing the route, having stuff downloaded, having an offline way to check the route. But at the same time, some of it, you don't want to know everything you're going to come across. Like, to me, that's the point of what is truly an adventure. There's times when I'm just going to go ride today. I guess I'll go in that direction and then I'll see what comes. And then I'm out there and I'm like, holy shit, I just went across the bay and now I'm downhilling through some redwood mountain bike trail that I didn't even know was out here. And now I'm out on the coast. That was one of the first rides I did down in the Bay Area. And I loved it. And it was like, man, I saw so much today. It blew my mind how much I was able to see.
Yeah. And like just the idea that you rode from your house, right? Because when you have a mountain bike, you typically going to drive to the trail or something like that. But like you're just leaving your house. So like I'm going for a bike ride and who knows where I'm going. I like that.
Yeah. And I think it's a good point when you say on a mountain bike, or at least a lot of people are familiar with mountain bikes when it's the style of what we call all-terrain. That's kind of why I commuted a lot on a mountain bike. I would always just ride a mountain bike because, again, I wanted to be able to ride whatever I came across. And now you have gravel bikes.
A mountain bike's probably the most versatile bike that there is, right? Like a hardtail mountain bike, something like that. You're going to ride on the trail. You can ride on the road. You can ride anything you want with it. So, it's probably the ultimate ATV bike, right? I mean, a gravel bike maybe too, but
yeah, I think when I got a mountain bike as my commuter, there was probably what people would call gravel bikes at the time, but I didn't really know about it. It was more like, okay, if I just get a road bike, am I going to be able to ride everything? I don't want to be showing up to some gravel and then turning around because I'm too scared to ride my bike on it. So for me, it was just like, I'll get a mountain bike and I can ride anything.
Yeah. Well, and, in my opinion, I think about every single different kind of situation you were going to run into. If you just were to leave your house on your bike and just ride, every situation you run into, what are you going to feel more comfortable on? A riser handlebar or a drop bar, right? Drop bar is great for going really fast, for getting aerodynamic, right? Offering some hand positions. But if I was going to ride through the city, through curbs and manholes and gutters and people crossing crosswalks and cars and everything else, I'd rather be on a mountain bike handlebar so I can bunny hop curbs and just go real quick, right?
Yeah, and I think you see categories crossing, when it comes to like hybrid bikes and all this stuff. Like now you see a drop bar on a mountain bike and all this stuff. I think it's more about people are trying different things. Maybe they're coming at it from a different style of riding that they used to do. But I think it just comes down to comfort. Like people are like, I'm riding all day. I'm comfortable with this kind of setup. And that's what's cool is adventure cycling has become, everyone's doing it a little bit differently. I think that's what's really cool about it is even us three, when we're out on a bikepacking trip, we all have a little bit different of a bike setup. And we have a little bit different of how we're doing our gearing or our camping gear. And everyone's getting to kind of show how they got into it through their expression of it.
That's what I really like about adventure cycling, because you can go on the same ride, the same route, at the same speed, basically, together in a group, and have a full suspension mountain bike, rigid mountain bike, gravel bike, 26-inch wheeled, relaxed handlebar basket bike, right there. You can have all these bikes in the same group, but if you were to go on to some crit, on a Wednesday night crit or something, is there going to be a mountain bike in it? No. You're going to go to the mountain bike trails? Are you going to take a road bike? No. So that's why adventure cycling or all-terrain bikes, bikepacking bikes, touring bikes, whatever you want to call them, are just the coolest kind of bike, because you can go everywhere, you can ride them every day, and everyone can ride them.
I think honestly, because what an adventure is to an individual, we all have our own definition. What is an adventure? What's adventurous to us? And we all feel comfortable on whatever bike fits our idea of that adventure. So I'm going to ride a hardtail mountain bike because it does what I want it to do more often than not. If I want to do something else, I need a different bike. Or if I want to do something else better, it might be easier on a different bike. What is I choose to do on an adventure bike, which is bike camping now, is well suited for that mountain bike I'm riding.
Yeah, I had a guy comment today on, I don't know, Instagram or Facebook or something, asking, I see that you guys are always riding mountain bikes, but how would that route be on a gravel bike, right? And I never thought that, because we ride in our little crew and we all have kind of different but similar setups. Yeah, it's great. You can go ride that route on a gravel bike. It's super fun. The gravel's great. He was asking about the Elliott Loon, which is, probably some of the best gravel I've ever been on.
Yep.
And so I can't wait to see. We need to get a gravel biker in our crew. So if anyone's listening and has a gravel bike and lives on the Southern Oregon coast or comes over here or something, come ride with us so we can put you in the next video and show people that you can do it with any bike you want. You could take your road bike, 700C, 23 tire, carbon frame road bike, right? Put a tail bag on it, put a handlebar roll, a little mini frame bag and top tube bag, or even rock a backpack or something, and go on a road adventure. You could still go adventuring and even act like a road biker. Go on an endurance cross-country road race or road tour thing.
I think it comes down to, again, people's comfort level with their past experience. Like if you rode a lot of gravel or you're on a gravel bike or you even did a lot of road cycling, you might be more comfortable because you're used to that. You might be more willing to try, getting more rowdy on that type of bike. I think it comes down to, how harsh of a ride do you want? Because if it gets really technical and rowdy, obviously it'll be a bit more comfortable if your bike maybe has some suspension or, it just comes down to what you're riding most of. And some people have kind of multiple bikes to use that bike on. Okay, this time I'm riding 99% pavement. and maybe I have it all planned out. Maybe I am not necessarily even doing much of what I would think is an adventure today. Maybe I'm riding the same thing I've always ridden. I know what to expect. I'm just trying to get some miles. That's going to be a little bit different of a mentality. But when we talk about adventure cycling, it's not just about camping with your bike or bike packing. That definitely falls under the category. But we're also talking about maybe day packing or just riding for a day ride.
So how many times, Al, have we went on some crazy day rides that were full on adventures, right?
Oh, many times.
So on the Southern Oregon coast here, there's a couple, there's lots of places you could just go ride off for the day, make anything into a route. And we've had times where we have said, okay, tomorrow we're going to go ride 25 miles into the woods, down this trail, into a ravine, and check out some old mines and cabins and stuff, right? And yeah, sure, we'll be back in 4.5 hours, right? We have it all planned out. You're packing like 2 sandwiches on this ride and a couple water bottles and all your stuff, and you've been gone all day, all day, and you come back. Well, I'm gonna speak for me. You come back completely wrecked, right? Like, man, I feel like I've been riding all fucking day, and and it's a venture and some really great rides, and just to get out there and get lost, or those times have been like big giant rides. What about just like, okay, I'm gonna load my car up, I'm gonna grab my bike and put it in the car, and I'm gonna go out to this park or this town or whatever, and just go explore it and ride a day ride. Pack your lunch, pack your water, pack a couple layers. That's adventuring. That's adventure bike riding. That's adventure cycling.
I'm gonna make it even simpler than that. Last year during the abandoned bike rides, the monthly bike ride that we had,
Bike party.
the bike party. There you go. The first ride that we went on, there was a 4-year-old who went and rode that thing. And you know what? That was an adventure. That was a huge ride for that little guy. And his parents were into it. He was into it. I was having fun just watching them enjoy the ride. What, it's about 4 miles? It was a great ride.
It was 4.5 miles almost. And a 4-year-old did it on a 12-inch bike with training wheels.
Yeah.
And
tell me that's not an adventure.
I mean, his little legs are just like, and think about like, when you're a little kid and you get farther than your block, right? Farther than your little area you get to hang out because your parents say, don't go past the house or don't go past the neighborhood or something. When you finally get out there, that's a huge adventure. So what would be for us like a week-long bike packing trip, for that little 4-year-old kid on our 4.5 mile ride was probably freaking epic, And then he probably crashed when he went home and his parents were like, thank God.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun seeing just that excitement level in other people's eyes on something like that. And that 4-year-old had that excitement, and those 40-year-olds who were out there riding, who are like never actually have ridden in a group like that, just for not a hurried pace, just go out and see where we're going.
And the bike party is kind of an adventure ride too for some people.
Yeah.
Like they get their beach cruiser and get their basket with their coffee and their water and their jacket and, all their stuff. And they're kind of packing their bike without even really knowing what, I just got to take this with me. So I'm putting it in there. The same shit that we do, pack our bikes, take all the stuff we need to go out wherever we're going. So adventure cycling, can be anything you want it to be.
There's been some days where I do a day packing ride, and I like that term day packing because you're still using the bike packing setup. You got your frame bag, you might use your other bags, and now it's just a day. You don't have to worry about camping out overnight. So you might bring more food than you would have brought. You might bring a chair. You might plan on biking out to a cool spot so you can hang out. Maybe you even go fishing for the day or something. You can go that whole mode, and you're using all that utility of the bike to carry just day stuff, and you have all day to just enjoy yourself, but you don't have to worry about figuring out where you're going to camp. That still falls under even what I would say is bike packing, though usually we use that term for when you're camping and staying overnight or doing a multi-day tour.
Right.
But it's pretty much the same exact thing. You're just doing it for the day because maybe that's all you can fit in, but it's still a cool way to get out there and enjoy yourself.
day packing is a great way to get into bike packing or overnight bike camping or cycle touring because we want, for example, not too long ago, me and Al took another one of our friends up to a lake that he's been wanting to ride up to, kind of as like a milestone for him in cycling. And we thought, okay, we're going up there. Well, let's pack, the pots and stoves and make burritos out there and pack the fishing rod and just go up there and hang out and stuff, right? And so you still feel like you're riding loaded and shit. Like you got your bike all loaded up with the stuff you need and go up there and hang out and kind of make your like, this is my area right here, right? This is our zone, my area to hang out and spend my time. So it feels really fun.
I think adventure riding, because it's so easily defined by each individual, it's really what you bring to it. That's where the adventure is. It's if I go out and experience something and experience it as an adventure, it's an adventure ride. And then following on, you want to plan every detail. There's a point where you plan everything. There's always going to be something that pops up, flat tire or a road gate closed or something that's going to alter that. So my comment usually is that adventure starts where planning ends. So you plan for stuff and you're prepared for stuff, but where your planning falls short of what the actual experience is, that's your adventure. That's you're experiencing something new.
Yeah, and it's fun going when we're on a bike packing trip and you get to something that you don't know about, and we kind of go like a little mini meeting. Like, for example, the Eden Ridge ride we just did not too long ago. The first time me and Al did it, what did we run into? Crazy log bridge. You're like,
Crazy log bridge.
I didn't know this was here. I didn't see it on the map. I didn't see this anywhere. What do you want to do? I don't know. Let's just walk across and see what happens. And you kind of just like, that is, we know the route goes through. We know this is an old road, but what's it like in between?
And there's something about that moment when you come across something you didn't expect, like that log bridge. And my question for you guys is, why does that just something as simple as that bridge? We rode all the way out there. Most of it's cool gravel climbs, awesome views, things that parallel other rides like that. But then you get to something that's a little bit more unique, like on this Eden Ridge ride, you have that log bridge. And it becomes super memorable where, like, that's one of the coolest parts of that ride. You didn't even know it was going to be out there. You're scouting it, you're planning for it. And then you get where you're crossing that. And that's the moment when you're like, this is a fucking adventure. This is awesome. What is it about those moments that level up that type of riding?
I really like the idea that it's really old and no one's out there and no one's been there for a long time. Somebody was here before, What that bridge look like when it had a top on it, when it was, had a surface on it? Yeah. People were out here before. And I really like that. I think the idea of the unknown is kind of exciting, right? Some people don't want to have that feeling at all. They want to have it 100% figured out just in case, right? But just not knowing what's ahead, it can be really fun to a certain extent, right? We plan these rides out. We do a little research. We plan the routes. We know a little bit of what's going on. We don't know exactly what it's like. So you still have, even though it's planned out, you still have adventure because we planned it out on the internet. We planned it out by, talking to some people. We planned it out by driving a couple sections or something. I don't know what it's really going to be like.
Yeah, a 2,000-foot climb on your computer sure looks different than it does on the bike. When you get out there and you're riding that 2,000-foot of climb and the road's rutted or bumpy or choppy, is totally different than the 2,000-foot smooth gravel ride or pavement. So, so you can plan to some extent, but you have to deal with what it shows you.
Yeah, and this Eden Ridge roundabout ride that we did recently, you have these ruins of the past that you come across. And you immediately feel like you're exploring new territory. And then you're wondering what happened here in the past. You know that there's things that have happened there. There was people out there that built this. So you're kind of going through those thoughts of like the history that has happened in some of these places. And then we had moments where we parked our bikes multiple times. We biked all the way out there and not everything is rideable. You get to these waterfalls where now we're putting our bikes aside and we're hiking down there and we're scrambling over rocks and we're taking in this whole other view, not on our bikes. And sometimes people have this mentality of like, I got to ride everything.
Yeah.
It's got to be 100% rideable this whole route. Or some people won't, you know, if we're talking about going off trail to where now you're putting your bike aside and hiking down to see something, there's even some people that won't do that part. They're more about just staying on the bike the whole time. We're taking it even that step further where, yeah, we're adventure cycling, we're on our bikes. But if we're passing something awesome like that, we're all about putting the bikes aside and hiking and scrambling and taking in that whole area that we're now in.
Yeah. And that's what's really cool about adventure cycling, because you can make it whatever you want it to be. If you want to go out there and say, okay, here's the route, the whatever route you're going to ride, I'm going to see how fast I can do it. Right? You're still adventure cycling. You're still out there relying on yourself. You're still out there camping. You're still out there doing it, but you're doing it in a different way. You're doing it to see how fast you can do it, which is still cool, you know? But when I make these routes, most of the time, I'm trying to find all the cool stuff along it. The waterfalls, the big tree, old historic stuff or whatever, because don't you want to know? I mean, you rode past it.
Yep.
And it's kind of cool to think too, like, we're working on, I was talking with Al today, we're working on a little bit of a road tour for changing it up a little bit, little secret insight to our plans, but we're going to do a road tour on road bikes. And the road that we're going to go over, I'm pretty sure people have probably been going over it like since the cowboy days or something, right? I mean, it was like a main pass to get over that mountain. Yep. And so you could be out there and going, okay, I'm pedaling up this hill. Well, am I working as hard as anyone else that's been over this pass? Because probably not, right? Imagine walking behind a horse or something. Like, it's just crazy to think that you're out there and there's all kinds of cool stuff. So, with my style, I would say, in making these routes, I'm always looking for cool stuff to see. Because you're out there, why not?
Even the unexpected stuff that pops up. I mean, in the last year, riding these dirt roads, and mostly dirt roads because you're farther away from people. I've seen 2 black bears run across our path. I've seen a small herd of like 9 elk just right in front of us. We about run on the bike. How many deer I cannot even tell you. Not counting eagles and osprey and everything else. You can see it just riding around away from people. And to me, that's as much of it as well. What you'd see out there when you're riding the bike.
Yeah, I went on a ride on my mountain bike last week where I did a good 66 miles or so. And my aim was just to, go do a big loop, go ride for the day. And the wildlife is what I noticed most. I saw multiple rabbits along the way. I saw multiple deer, passing farmland, seeing goats and stuff. So it is always cool to see just the animals that you come across. And that even those moments where you see, especially wild animals, you kind of get sucked into that moment, where you're just like, oh, that's crazy, I saw that. Sometimes it's like eagles and things like that. But those moments really, take you out of your head in a way.
Eagles is what reminds me, because we had a little stretch where like every time we went on a trip, we saw an eagle.
Yeah.
And that's really fun. But reminding of those elk, Al, I can't remember exactly where we were at when we saw those, but I remember we were on the Eden Ridge Loop the first time we rode it with Kenny.
Yep.
And we're riding on that downhill, and this huge herd of elk run across the road, like right in front of us. We all get on the brakes. And it's funny because I had that thought process of like, shit, let me get my phone out, And then as I'm like thinking that, boom, the whole other half the herd, well, the other half ran across, remember?
Yeah.
Yeah. Super fun.
I've watched you have a foot race with a grouse, basically going down the road too. I thought for any second that thing's going to jump in front of your spokes. You're going to eat it, but
yeah, riding in the 6s, we were riding one time, and this grouse, it's like a mountain chicken, right? It just like was hanging out on the side of the road, and like rode past it, and then I got to it, and the thing like ran along the side of me, and I'm like, I don't know if this thing wants to come to the campsite and be dinner, but it's kind of like running right side my wheels and stuff. And it just ran off in the woods, and that was that. But it's kind of cool because you do see a lot of stuff. And I think that's what adventure cycling is all about. You're out there to see it, right? You're out there to get, not necessarily get lost, but, find new stuff that you didn't know about. see cool stuff, see stuff with no real plan. You know, when you go mountain bike riding, you're like, yeah, I'm gonna go ride this trail, that trail, this trail. When I go road bike riding, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna follow this route, you know, and get this much feet and this much miles or something.
Yeah, you almost want the feeling of getting lost, but you're not really lost. But I think it does something for your psyche when you can get out there. And for me, what I've loved about adventure cycling is, you know, for my job, I'm looking at a screen or I might be more stationary. And this hobby has been almost like the exact opposite. It's a way to get outside, not looking at a screen and moving. So when you watch my GoPro videos and stuff, I'm actually trying to find that balance of not necessarily capturing everything, not pulling out my phone at every moment. Sometimes I want to be in that moment. And so for me, I am kind of trying to find that balance, right?
Yeah. Being in the moment reminds me of a lot of one of my favorite times bike camping, bike packing is like you have your camp set up right here and you might like, I'm gonna go down to the river and have breakfast or eat dinner or something. Like that's kind of cool to me. You're in this different spot, you're taking your camp, you're moving over here, right? And you're not doing stuff like taking pictures and filming it. Like we're just chilling and hanging out there, you know?
Yeah, the footage that people see is what we happen to record. And there's lots of times where wildlife might jump right out at you. You're not going to be able to capture it that fast. And sometimes you'll have that reflex where you want to, but, you know, and then you kind of remind yourself, like, I can just be here in this moment. I don't need to capture it, you know?
You want to experience it, not record it. See, that's a big call there.
Like when you're bombing a hill and you went past something cool, and you're like, man, I should get that on recording. But you're like, well, just in the time I thought about that, I've already made it a freaking quarter mile down this hill.
We've talked about this a lot too, where there's a certain amount you can carry with you and you can't carry with you. I mean, mentally, if you are working and you have, you know, a job that's mentally demanding, a lot of that drops away when you're out on the bike because it's more about the rhythm of just turning the cranks, going up the hill, keeping your bike upright, you know, and just riding and seeing what's out there. And if it's a long, steep hill, it may be just all you can do is just to keep those cranks turning and breathing normally to get up that hill. And, you know, that sounds like it's bad. It's a lot of work. And sometimes it is a lot of work, but you're not worried about what's going on back at the office. You're just in the moment riding the bike.
Tell us how you get up the hill. What you think about up the hill? You told me on the ride the other day.
Me?
Yeah. Well, on that long climb when I kept thinking you were going to stop, but you didn't. What were you thinking about the whole time?
I was running multiplication tables in my head, just passing time, turning the cranks.
And what did you go through?
I went from just 1 times 1 to all the 12 times 12, just going through that. Then I started running square roots, you know, so, but it passes the time, you know, and watching what's going on, just spinning the cranks. So
it is cool to use it as a meditative activity where you're so in the zone of just pedaling that your mind is racing in some way. And so you could try to like maybe focus on your breathing or just knowing where your mind's going. It's like maybe you're thinking about, you know, random ideas, whether work related, or maybe it's just a song stuck in your head, or maybe you're listening to some music while you're jamming up the hill because you're just out there. So you almost have to be with your thoughts in those moments. And so sometimes it is interesting to see where your mind goes when you're like climbing up a hill.
Yeah. And like we talked about it before with Al, when you're bike packing or something, not a whole lot matters. I mean, yeah, if you have a job or some really crazy shit going on in your life and you can't put it away 100%, right? But for the most part, when you're out there, it doesn't really matter. All you're going to do is ride your bike and hang out. Seems pretty easy.
Yeah.
Pretty fun. And like a lot of people think, like a lot of people ask too, is bike packing hard? It's not hard. Yeah. Carrying all that shit, riding up hills.
it simplifies it. I mean, your whole life gets pretty darn simple when it's just a matter of turning the cranks, letting the miles go by, seeing what there is to see, actually, you know, taking the time, stopping, photographing, experiencing what's there, and enjoying it. I mean, it's really, your life gets pretty darn simple out there.
No, you're right. We do get asked that a lot. People will see us doing this type of riding, people that don't really even ride a bike, really. And not only do they see us riding a bike, but then they think we're fucking crazy because of how far we've ridden a bike or all the stuff we're trying to put on a bike. But we want to show people that they can do this at an easier level. And we just might be crazy sometimes. They don't have to do it like that. But we want to show there's other ways you can do this. There's tons of ways you can just have fun on a bike. And so, Al, I had a question for you. Let me pull up what Wikipedia says is bicycle touring. So bicycle touring is the taking of self-contained cycling trips for pleasure, adventure, or autonomy rather than sport, commuting, or exercise. Bicycle touring can range from single-day trips to extended travels spanning weeks or months. But when we talk about adventure cycling or bikepacking, the way that Wikipedia categorizes this is kind of similar to how we've said all-terrain cycling. They're calling it mixed terrain cycle touring. Nicknamed rough riding in North America and very occasionally rough stuff in parts of the UK, involves cycling over a variety of surfaces and topography on a single route with a single bicycle. The recent popularity of mixed terrain touring is in part a reaction against the increasing specialization of the bike industry. Focusing on freedom of travel and efficiency over varied surfaces, mixed terrain bicycle travel has a storied past, one closely linked with warfare. By comparison, today's mixed terrain riders are generally adventure-oriented, although many police departments rely on the bicycle's versatility. In many remote and not so remote parts of the world, with unreliable pavement, the utility bicycle has become a dominant form of mixed terrain transportation. A new style of travel called adventure cycle touring or expedition touring involves exploring these remote regions of the world on sturdy bicycles designed for the purpose. Off-road adventure cycling with lightweight gear, and often a rackless system, is now known as bikepacking. Bikepacking is not a new phenomenon, though, as lightweight, soft luggage touring has been in use for well over a century. Early settlers in Australia used bicycles with bags strapped to the handlebars frame and under the saddle to carry loads into the Australian outback. Whew. That was a lot to read. And then they have a few different categories too. We have adventure cycle touring, like I mentioned, alpine cycle touring, mixed terrain bicycle racing, mixed terrain commuting. Maybe you're commuting on a mountain bike, snow biking, and bikepacking. So it's interesting to see how Wikipedia has kind of merged all these ideas together. That's the term that they're using. So Al, I wanted to ask you, now that we kind of have that in our heads, we kind of heard some of the history there, some of the terminology. What is it that you love about adventure cycling?
That's kind of a tough one. There's a lot of stuff that really appeals to me. I think what calls to me most is it actually puts a physical demand, keeps me active and out there. And it allows me to physically get out and be out there doing something. I've always felt better about myself when I'm either running or riding out and active. I think generally most people actually feel better if they are very active. And it didn't start with a 30-mile ride. It starts with maybe I can get this bike a mile. But after a while, it doesn't take long to build up and get there. So first of all, it's what I feel inside health-wise and mentally as well, just by being out there. The second part, what I really like about it is what I get to see that I wouldn't normally see. Even if I ride a road that I drive, you actually get to see more things and hear more things, and that catch your attention. You have to deal with the elements, whether it's hot, cold, or the wind. You never see somebody talking about the wind bothering you on your driving commute, where the wind might be actually a big factor of what you're doing out there. So it actually makes you more involved in what you're doing. And finally, it's the community. So far, everybody I found that is going out there and riding and doing this type of riding, I'll go and call it adventure cycling, even adventure touring, if we want to get to that point, if we could get into multiple days. We are a lot more like-minded than not. We'll have vicious agreements and disagreements about gear and bikes and setups and stuff, because we're all individuals, but at the same time we'll defend each other to just crazy extents about being out there and having the right to be out there and actually enjoying what we're doing as we're doing it.
So four of the reasons that I heard you bring up was health, sightseeing,
yep,
endurance,
yep,
and community.
And the community. The community probably ties it all together, because it's always easier to train or actually experience race. The toughest races you can find in the world are individual efforts. I mean, from bike, run, whatever it happens to be, those races are the hardest ones when you're all by yourself. So the same thing holds true in my mind about adventure cycling. If you're doing it by yourself, a 30-mile ride can sometimes be a long day. And a 40 or 50-mile ride with people, you're like, well, we're here already. I've really enjoyed the ride. I've got to talk to somebody, carry on. I stopped when they stopped because they saw something I didn't see. I mean, so the days really fly by, the miles fly by, and it's a community, and just enjoying meeting new people and what they do.
Yep. So Mike, my question would be for you, why would we suggest adventure cycling as a hobby or activity for someone to get into if they like having fun on their bikes? Everything that we've said has sounded interesting. Maybe they're just a little hesitant to get started. But what would be your reasoning? What would be your push if you had an elevator pitch for this hobby, for this activity? What would you tell someone?
I think most people that ride bikes just ride to have fun on a bike, right? They're not. There's a lot of people that will ride bikes for exercise purpose. Like that's the purpose they ride a bike. There's a lot of people that ride a bike because they have to ride a bike to get to somewhere, right? They have to commute on a bike. And then there's a lot of people that just want to go out and explore and have fun and do that. But I think in all those bike scenes, you still have this sense of exploring on a one person powered machine, right? Like I'm in my own little control thing. So I think that people want to just get out and explore. They want to find things on bikes. They want to go places on bikes. They want to challenge themselves on bikes. And venture cycling is a great way to do it because everybody can do it and you can do it anywhere, right? Everybody can race a mountain bike on a downhill trail if they really wanted to, but some people are going to do pretty good at it and some people are going to do really bad at it. Like Al.
Yeah, like me.
And but just go out and explore your bike in the neighborhood. Go ride through the neighborhoods to a park that you haven't been to. Or I'm going to ride my bike across town to go to my appointment or something just because I want to see if I could or enjoy it. Like that's all adventure cycling. I think a lot of people in our particular area, because we have so much wilderness and vast space to get out and explore, they get into it because of that. They want to go out into the woods, stuff like that. And the idea that you could do it on a car, I mean, everybody could do it on a car. Yeah. I might do it on a bike. So I don't know. That's kind of a really hard question. I don't know.
I think you can simply say it's having fun on a bike.
Yeah.
It's just going to be whatever you make it. And I know, Al, you and Gary kind of talked about there's now this overlap with these other terms. We talk about gravel cycling, we talk about bikepacking, but now it's almost tainted with this idea of races and racing. And when people talk about bikepacking, you're automatically thinking of a bikepacking race, or a gravel cycling, you're thinking about a gravel race. And it doesn't always have to be about a race. And we're not elite athletes. We're just normal, everyday people that want to go have fun on bikes and show other people that you don't have to be an athlete. You can go at your own pace. You can make it whatever you want. So what was that conversation that you and Gary had? I think there was some other points that you guys made on that topic.
Yeah, Will, we started off talking about gravel riding. Getting I have a gravel bike. And Gary mentioned that gravel biking is almost ruined with the thought of gravel racing, because if you say I have a gravel bike, everybody kind of assumes that you are going to be out racing, and it's not that. It's I have a bike that's suited to ride on gravel, and it maybe better suited for a little higher speed than my mountain bike. That's all. I'm still having an adventure out there. And when we talk about adventure cycling and adventure touring, we've almost lost that whole term due to the epic nature of these incredible rides people do. When you say, I'm an adventure cyclist, I'm thinking, whoa, he's going to ride across India. Well, no, I'm not going to ride across India. My adventure cycling might be 20 miles out, camp, and 20 miles back. It might be 10 miles camp and 10 miles back. Or maybe it's a multi-day adventure, but it's that adventure that's suited for me and my abilities at the time. So I'm worried that those terms are going to get distorted to where if you say I'm an adventure cyclist, if you don't ride across the United States, or down to the all of South America, then well, you're not really an adventure cyclist.
Yeah.
I don't buy into that discussion.
Or a bike packer, right? I go bike packing. Oh, what is that? Like a 24-hour overnight race?
Yeah.
Are you trying to set the fastest known time on this trail? No, I just call it bike packing because I have bike packing bags.
And those folks that do that are amazing, and it's fun to watch, and it's fun to see. Especially the more you know about a sport, the more you can appreciate what they've done. And, like I used to say, like watching golf on TV. If you haven't ever golfed, you don't realize really the difficulty involved and how really amazing those athletes are. I can appreciate the ability that these folks that race the Great Divide, for example, have. It's just phenomenal. It just amazes me.
That's what's cool about adventure cycling, right? They have the Great Divide mountain bike race on a route. Yeah, there's people that race it, but there's people that ride that thing all freaking season, And so you could race it and turn it into a race and try to get as fast as you can and challenge yourself in that way while still being out there and still seeing cool stuff and still camping and still relying on yourself. You're just doing it in a different way versus the guy that takes, all summer to go through a whole state just because he's checking out every little thing and riding at his own pace. It's all adventure cycling. But the bike industry kind of ruins things too, like gravel bikes, right? When you buy a gravel bike from a bike manufacturer, you get a racing style bike for off-road usage, right? It has a long, low stem, right? It has gears a little bit meant for going faster. It's selling this carbon, racing bike, gravel bike. You could bike pack it totally well. But you also rides really good on gravel roads? A 26-inch rigid mountain bike.
Yeah.
Right? Not the greatest mountain bike for bombing down trails because it's old school and 26-inch wheels and, cantilever brakes or V brakes or whatever. But it's freaking awesome on dirt roads. So if you're riding your bike on a gravel road, you are gravel biking.
Yep.
Right?
Exactly.
If your bike that you go out and ride on gravel roads every other day is a gravel bike, but the bike industry has to, sell bikes. So
and to follow up on that, I used to be really focused on competition and trying to get better and improving my time all the time. And I found last year I got rid of that little device I put here. And once I got rid of that watch, I've enjoyed the rides a lot more because I'm not saying, oh man, that was a slow mile, or I think we should have done better than that. It is not about that time it takes. It's about the time you spend, I think.
At
the same time, it's fun to race each other.
It's fun to race yourself too,
Yeah.
There's times when I like to race myself, but I think it does depend on the mood. We're not necessarily saying never race or we don't want to race. I'm almost starting to like this term bike camping more than the term bike packing, because again, when we talk about racing, it's that whole other direction. Like, we're not anti-racing, but it's become so much about the racing that now you could kind of think of bike packing like, hey, as long as I have a pack on my bike and I just ride through the night, like I'm doing a race, I'm going to try to get to the finish line first. So therefore I just have a bivvy I throw on the ground and I sleep for 2 hours and I throw it back in. Or maybe I don't even have a bivvy. Maybe I'm like not sleeping at all and I'm just going to ride through the nights and be sleep deprived. I know some of the racing associations now, the racing organizations, are even thinking about requiring people to actually have to stop and camp for a certain amount of time before they pick back up, because there is this difference in the mentality. When we say bike camping, we're saying, no, we're actually going to stop and set up camp. And bikepacking used to mean that, but now it can mean just, I'm going to be so aero and so lightweight and just ride through every night and never sleep. And hey, I won the race. I did it in 2 days. Look at me. When there was somebody else that maybe they did the same race in 6 days, but they were fully loaded, carrying twice as much weight, and they camped and enjoyed themselves along the way. I think there is a little bit of a clash between those two ways of doing what we're calling a race.
Yeah, and you know what? It's like when you go adventure cycling and it's not a race, whatever, you're just gonna go and do it, and it's gonna be your way, and no one really cares. You just do it your way, and everyone has fun. But the second you put a race into it, like here, we're having bike packing races, which are still cool. Like it's really cool that people are racing on a bike packing event or across country. But now we have to have debates about stuff, right? Like, should we have a rule so people have to sleep for the safety of the racers because people are willing to not sleep and then not only endanger themselves but endanger other people out there, right? So like now it's getting all like jumbled up, and oh, can they take a camera with them on the race and have someone take a picture of them racing, or does that make them faster than you? So you start bringing racing into the mix, which is fun and stuff. But when you take it to a competitive level of racing, which is still fun, there's a whole nother side of not fun emotions.
Yep.
People take it to the max, right?
Every time you get a chance to push somebody or they push themselves beyond their abilities, it gets risky. And it's not good for any race director to have a contestant die on your course. It's just not good. Yeah, so that's what they're it could destroy the whole event forever, right? In some regards, there's going to be some folks that are like, I have to go do it now because how dangerous it is. There's that group of people out there, and it's available for them. That's not what we do.
It's almost like I want to say like an adrenaline junkie. So it's like adrenaline cycling instead of adventure cycling. There's going to be people that are chasing that fix. They want to beat records, and we find it inspiring. Those people are awesome when we see that stuff. But there are people that could take it too far, or maybe there are people that are even cheating in some way. But you are going to have that when it comes down to, people competing. And then there's money on the line now, maybe, you have sponsorships, you have awards. That is going to taint it in some way. And there is going to be some bad things that come with that. So it is, again, we're trying to spread this idea of bike camping, bike chilling, hanging out. Like, this is why we're out here. We're not out here for the finish line. We're out here for the entire journey to that finish line.
Or using the bike as a tool to do something. You want to go to that hike, go ride your bike, stash it in the woods, and then go hike. Or you want to go fishing on the beach, go ride your bike, go fishing on the beach, right? You can use it as a tool. And then when you have a tool that's like an adventure bike, it's more like a tool that you can customize, right? You could have a bike that's set up to have a basket on the front to throw stuff in, or you can have a bike that has pannier bikes, and you can have a bike that, has racks and lights and, dynamo hub and all these setups to make the bike your own. But when you have a mountain bike or a racing bike, you have it for one purpose, going fast.
It is crazy to think that you could be doing a bucket list item. Only one time in your life you got out and you did the Great Divide mountain bike route. But because you were racing it, you didn't get to see half of it because it was in the dark. It's crazy to think that, you did it. You didn't see all of it though. So, everyone's going to do it in their own way. Maybe that person still had fun seeing how fast they could do it. That's fine. But we are trying to show that you could just be a little kid doing a 4-mile ride around town, and you saw way more than you ever thought possible on your bike.
Yeah.
I see this as a 2-part process. First part is information. A lot of this, what we're doing is informational. We're getting out and we're telling about what we've done, what we've experienced. A lot of the videos are excellent examples of that. so people can see it. We're visual creatures. I can see what you saw, at least on part of it. And I think that's inspiring a lot of folks. I said the other part of that I would like to probably jump into someday is a mentorship, to where, hey, if you're interested in joining us, interested in doing this, if our ride is too aggressive, so maybe you're not ready to ride 4,000 feet that first day, let us know. We can dial stuff back. We can have another ride set up, or we can find a ride that is, 10 miles and 1,000 feet of climbing, or something like that. In fact, when you first start, that's probably a really good target because you want to get out and shake out those little bugs, find out what works.
And that's what's fun, about adventure cycling. And for me, mixing the bike shop into it because, I get to talk bike packing all day with people, right? So, and I get paid for it. I can make a living off of like riding bikes and talking bikes and stuff. It's nothing but fun. So people can totally just be like, hey, they when you're in a racing scene, right? Is the guy on the road bike crit race going to help you be faster, or is he going to worry about trying to win right now? Right? Or stay with the race. They're not going to like slow down and help the person that's slower. But in the adventure cycling scene, at least in our group, I don't care. If somebody's slower than I am, that means that it's not going to be as hard for me, and I'm totally fun because I'm going to have more fun because I didn't work as hard. Right? And ultimately, we want to make. I would love. Me and I were talking about today. Like I mentioned earlier, we're talking about this road ride. I said, how cool would it be to invite a bunch of people and we get like 20 people on this?
Yeah.
And roll in this whole scene. It'd be super fun. The more, the better.
I think this is a good lead into this ongoing series that we're going to be working on. It's going to be on the podcast, and then we're even thinking about maybe taking it beyond the podcast. But it's this idea of helping people get into this because they see these crazy rides we're doing, and again, we can narrow it down. We can simplify this. We could just take them on a couple mile ride, show them how to camp out, show them how to set up their bike. And so we're going to be coming out with an ongoing podcast series that we're calling the Starter Pack. And so there should be one coming out soon, and this will be ongoing with multiple categories, and each podcast will be its own category. So one will be just talking about what makes a good bikepacking bike. What kind of tires would you go with? What kind of gear are you going to use when it comes to hygiene? What about your shelter? Like each of these can be a category. What about the racks and the bags? It can seem like a lot to some people at first, especially if they have barely even ridden a bike and they're trying to get into this, or maybe they've never camped and they're trying to get into this. Like people are coming at it from all these different directions, and we just want to get out on bikes, have fun, and hang out. It can be something really short if at the end of the day we just get to hang out on bikes. I mean, that's what we all really enjoy. You're going to have some days where you're really trying to push it and challenge yourself, and you're with people at that level, and that's a lot of fun. And then we could just have days where it's like, maybe we're all kind of tired, or we just feel like rolling out to the beach and hanging out with our bikes. I think we want to show people that we're a community, like Al said. It's a community of like-minded people that we're just outside trying to get some movement in a fun, different way than you may have expected.
I was talking about last ride. I was talking about Gary. I said, I can't tell you what's going to work on this bike camping stuff for me. I said, but I do know one that I get it out there and I try to use it. I know what doesn't work, so I leave that off and try to find something else. And every time I go out with people who are doing something, cooking differently, or setting their bike up differently, or sleeping differently, I get another idea of what may or may not work for me. And so there's a lot of learning involved every time we go, not just the first time you go. I've learned something every single time I've went out there about the setup, the bike, making a route, what's a good route, what's not a good route. So
it's like you're practicing bike packing, because are any of you guys totally settled with your kit?
Nope.
You're always learning, you're always tinkering, and the whole starter pack series idea is that we're going to all have a different perspective and we all have different experience. You can look this up on Google. You could see some of these blogs. Maybe they're product companies trying to sell you something and they're going to tell you some of their recommendations on gear. Or maybe There's some bikepacking blogs and websites that have a whole informational article on gear lists and how to get started. We're thinking about it a little bit differently. Again, people that could have never even camped or never even biked. And Michael, you've been in the bike industry for decades, and so you have that perspective. I got into this, quite a few years ago, and Al just recently got into this. So we've all changed the way we've ridden. We've changed bikes. We've changed gear. And so we do have some experience with things that we've tried and things that we've changed and our reasoning behind that. And I think that gives us a unique perspective, especially when we're trying to think about people that aren't going to be doing anything crazy at first. What we can recommend to them, because we've already kind of tested it and tried it out, and we're kind of thinking about it from the direction they're getting into it. We're not making recommendations to somebody that's about to go cross country. We're making recommendations to somebody that's just trying to get into it and see how they can have fun with it.
And I think from everybody's perspective is I can tell you what works for me. I can tell you what I've tried in the past and why I don't do that any longer. And I can tell you, why I chose to do it this way. And, you can be brand new, first time, never went, and come up with and say, this is what I'm going to do. And I might learn from you as well. So I think that's the best part of this thing.
Yeah. For me here at the bike shop, it all started with, I started getting people that were like, it looks too hard. I don't think I can keep up with you guys. I don't think I can camp like that or something. And I kind of thought, well, I don't want people to think that we're making this look hard or something, or they can't do it at their own level. So we got to show people what we're doing. And then, me and Dallas were talking about the starter pack stuff, and what better way? We're not selling them on what, cook camp section, the episode about your cooking kit. We're not trying to sell you a branded pot. We're just telling you what we use and why we use it and what we used before and why we don't use that no more. We're not trying to have some kind of sell you the stuff that we're friends with kind of thing, right? Which a lot of people do on the internet. We're going to have reviews on what bike bags to have. And then when you go look at what affiliated companies on they're sponsored with or something of the same company, right? So we're telling you what bags we use because of why and our experience with it. And that's the same thing I do in the bike shop is, what do you think about this? Oh, well, I think about this because of this experience, because I work on that same bike all the time or something like that. So people will get an honest opinion without trying to be a sales pitch of, we think these companies are cool, or this brand is the best, or this style is the coolest. So the person that's getting into cycling, or the person that's getting into bike packing, that wants to go adventure cycling, can watch this starter pack series of all these different categories. Like Dallas said, what kind of bike? What kind of tires? How do you take a dump in the woods? How do you get water? What are you cooking? So it's going to be real fun to lay it all out there and make it real easy for everyone to check out.
I'm excited about it. I'm going to learn something as we go, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there'll be a lot to discuss. We can go over all different types of gear, even just, now I'm at camp. How do I chill at camp? How do I make camping comfortable? What do we do at camp? Now we're here. Developing routes, planning a route. Maybe, there's a lot of people that get into this and they're just looking at the routes that have already been made and doing that. But we personally have fun actually making our own routes where we don't see any routes out here. And so you kind of get to explore new territory when you do something like that. And that's a whole other part of it that we've come to really enjoy.
The route making part is probably one of the funnest parts for me. It was already a hobby for me to be checking out maps before I even went bike packing, just to look and see what's there, what's there. Fun to look on satellite view and just look at stuff and find stuff, blah, blah. And so to make these routes and then go ride them and then have other people ride them after, it's real satisfying as a hobby for me. And people should know how to make a route. So I would love to give, what I do to make the routes to other people.
Yeah, we might even have these routes developed, but people need to know how to download them offline and use them and know how to read these routes, learn how to read a map.
How do you use Strava and ride with GPS and these map apps to your advantage? You know, which then brings up, how do I keep my phone charged
Yeah.
for multi days? You know, how do I deal with all this? Because you don't have to do all that. You can go out there and wing it and just get lost and find cool stuff too. Find stuff that we probably wouldn't even find because it's not on maps. But you can do it kind of efficiently because most people, like myself, have to go to work. I have the weekend most of the time to go do what I want to do. So I'm going to try to make the best of it and know what I need to do to see the cool stuff and plan it out so we can make it happen in time. And that's fun. But having no agenda, I can't even imagine, would be super fun. Just going out there and
winging it.
Winging it, yeah.
Yeah, I made a joke the other day when we were doing a ride, just saying, hey, how about we just ask people we pass which direction we should go and just see where we end up. But not that you would do that, but going, not really having a plan, like as long as you have stuff on you so you're prepared for whatever you might.
I feel like that would make a super sick YouTube series. Like you get your bike, like you have somebody, I don't know, you can make it happen where you can just have like the whole summer off or something. And you go, okay, the first person I see on my bike, I'm going to ask them which direction. I'm going to tell them, hey, I'm just riding my bike all summer. Which direction should I go? And just keep doing that. And then, document your travels and kind of see where you go. Oh man, it'd be crazy if you just kept going back home.
Yeah, right. They know where I should be. I should be home, I guess. So yeah, if you've been listening or watching and you've gotten this far in the episode, I'm talking to you. We got a starter pack series coming out, and that's going to be a fun one. We're going to go in depth on all these different categories, how to get started bike camping. And I think we'll have a lot to share. I think we'll learn a lot along the way because we're all going to be sharing our different opinions and different experiences. And I think we all have probably some stories from past adventures that we can share with each other. So I'm excited for that one.
I feel like people should know too, like this whole thing right now is learning experience about bike camping. We all thought, okay, this would be fun to share it with everybody, especially for us that live rural. Like there's no one else around here. It was just kind of us doing this stuff. And so to share it with the outside world is real fun. But podcasting, right?
I'm learning how to do a podcast right now.
Yeah.
So if you've tuned in to see experts talk about this bike camping thing, you're on the wrong podcast. You're going to see some people who really enjoy what they're doing. We're not experts. We're enjoying it.
So don't listen to us.
No.
I think at this point we can just talk about whatever. I think we have enough stuff, and I'll have an intro and outro. So I can still use some of this. So if there's just random things that come to your mind, I'll slice and dice accordingly.
Cool.
Slice and dice. Well,
I think he's got a little software that helps him. It's like, bullshit. Bullshit. That's bullshit. How come every time Al talks is bullshit?
So on Facebook, I know because Dallas is not on Facebook, but on Facebook, I share all this stuff that we do on Instagram on Facebook as well.
Yeah.
And I shared on Facebook, and the couple guys that are out in Roseburg that are kind of talking with us about riding said, I love the podcast. I love what you guys are doing. We're getting stoked to come ride. We're getting ready to ride or something like that. And so I told Dallas on the phone, Al, that this next spring and summer is going to be bonkers as far as bike stuff goes. I'm already slammed in the bike shop in the summertime. And then we have all kinds of rides we're going to do. And then this year we're going to be saying, hey, you want to come ride with us?
Yes.
Right? And instead of like doing the rides in our little crew and then showing the world, we're going to invite the world.
So you know what just came to my mind? You know how we were going to come out here and do the Eugene thing?
Yeah. So
Mike had this idea of like, with these events, it's like a punk band poster, right? Like a music poster.
Like, the posters that were drawn with like Sharpies and shit.
Yeah.
But you know what that just made me think of is like, we're talking about touring, right? Like our rides are touring, but what if we took those rides to different nearby areas?
Oh,
like we're a touring band.
Now appearing in Eugene.
So it's like Eugene, Roseburg, or whatever.
For
it's
a
like
2-night stay only.
Yeah, so it's like those bands where they're touring the country. That kind of came to my mind. Like,
and
it's
it would
funny
be fun too because it'd be really easy to say like, "Hey, especially like on Instagram or something. Hey, we're going to Eugene on Saturday. Let's ride." Here, and just put like an address or something.
Yeah,
a little punk band.
I could see like the Eugene trip of showing up early, getting a 20 whatever mile ride in, camping as the beginning package, right? And actually have the real ride the next day. Get up next day, So you have the mentorship camp that first night, and then have our ride the next day. Where maybe they don't want to ride 30 miles, 40 miles.
You just have the
right?
bro chill out base camp, and then go ride the next day.
Come set up your
Do it
gear.
like the inverted way.
Yeah, ride here. Get 5 or set up your stuff. Let's get a little 15 minute mile ride. And go from there.
Check this out. Guys. That's new cinematic lenses for the GoPro. Might be trying those on the next one.
So next time it's going to look like High Plains Drifter or something?
Yeah, it's going to look like, what's that movie with Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas? Yeah, something like that.
When's the drone going to come into play?
Oh, man, dude. We were just talking about, like, being in nature, and now I got to carry a drone with me. What?
Yeah, but I noticed, because I watched a Ryan Van Deezer video the other night, that his little drone is like...
You have to get the mini. Yeah, we'd have to get the mini one.
Yeah.
And then it's like battery on it's like 15 minutes. So it's like, I'm just wondering how many, like, yeah, it'd be cool to get one good shot, I guess. But I don't know. It would take a lot to figure it out.
I think it'd be cool as fuck to get all kinds of cool shots from the sky.
Well, it would be cool to mess with. I just haven't really done it yet. Because obviously you have to pack it.
So last year, Coos County reached out to me to like take these 2 guys on the mountain bike trails. They're like media influencer guys or something. And one of them had a drone, right? And it was not a mini drone; it was a big drone. And he has it hooked up on his phone and shit. And he goes, "Okay, we're gonna ride this section down this hill." And he puts the drone like into a mode and it's sitting there like hovering, and like can literally click on you and like this guy follow this guy, and puts the drone into AI mode. Right? It does its own thing. Hits play or whatever, or start. The drone just takes off. It's kind of flying around, and what it's doing is it's like getting a feel for the area where trees are at and shit, right? And you start riding, and this drone just going ring, ring, just doing its own thing. But it's weird as fuck because you're riding down the trail, and this drone ring, comes right in towards you, right? And you're like, "Fuck, what the fuck? Is this thing gonna hit me?" Like. But it's just so crazy that the thing just does it by itself.
Yeah, I could almost picture like some like horror movie or some bad case where like you're out biking and you didn't expect that your drone was going to just clip you. And then next thing you know, you didn't bring all the emergency gear you needed and gauze, and like you're getting straight up attacked in the wilderness by your drone. So that's kind of what I'm scared of.
You know what we should do is just have a video where you're riding like that without a helmet and it's bonk, right? Then lay out there and say, "This is why you ought to wear a helmet."
Yeah.
I'm not falling off the bike.
I'm just going to take a little helium balloon and tie the GoPro to it and tie a string to my bike and just drag that shit behind me.
So adventure droning, is that what maybe that should...
I don't know. We need, if you look on the internet, we can find one of these kids that does like those drone racing. Hey, you like going bikepacking? And hook a GoPro up to it, and they can just like race around us and like fly under your cranks and shit. And
I was going to ask that from the last Powers ride, that footage work out okay from that GoPro I was wearing?
You didn't watch it? I sent it to you.
You didn't watch the video yet?
You said, no, I'm sure it's probably good.
Wait, you didn't watch the video yet?
So somebody sent me a link, but it said it was private, so I couldn't watch it.
Oh, you should be able to watch it now, I think.
You know what? I think there's something wrong with it, actually, Dallas, because I tried to watch it again and it said it was private.
Oh, it's because I scheduled it. I think so. Maybe it is private now. I'll have to
When
check.
is it going to come out?
Sunday.
Cool.
Sunday at what time?
So we have a new video, the Eden Ridge Roundabout. We just did a bikepacking ride out in Powers last weekend.
Nice.
And I'm talking to the viewers or the listeners.
I'm excited.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I was there.
Yeah. So we have a
On
video.
camera. You're on the
Yeah.
clock again, remember?
We have a video coming out. It'll probably be out before this podcast is out. The Eden Ridge Roundabout. So that was a fun bikepacking overnighter that we recently did out in Powers, Southern Oregon Coast Range. And that's a good spot in between Bandon and Roseburg. So that'll be a fun one to share with everyone. So I'm excited to see what everyone thinks about that. And I think that might be the longest video that we've done. So yeah, the GoPro footage turned out good. We had Al had a GoPro on his chest. I had the GoPro on my handlebars most of the time. And then I took it off and kind of did some, vlogging style clips, commentary. So we kind of break it apart with commentary and then just clips from riding. And it's been cool to kind of figure out, again, this balance of, every now and then we do a quick commentary, but that's like maybe a minute or two. And I'm trying to keep it super easy. I just set up quick capture mode so I can just hit the GoPro button, records a clip, and then it shuts off. Battery lasts almost all day, and I just stitch it together in the end. So we're trying to find a way to not overproduce. We still want to be out there enjoying ourselves. I don't want it to be too disruptive. But, if we get a drone at some point, then I guess we'll just disrupt the whole ride, We'll be too... I'm just picturing like we go out there with a drone and then now next thing you know, we just put the bikes aside and we're just like get sucked in for hours. We're just like
I want to fly
playing with this remote control.
Damn it, this piece of shit only lasts 15 minutes.
The sun's going down. We're like, oh shit. Oh yeah, we got to get to camp.
back.
Right. He had to grab another beer.
He had to go take a shit. I hope he had to go flip the brisket in his. I
wish we had a
smoker
GoPro
out there.
on him while he was doing that.
Maybe we should all wear GoPros filming us, and we can have 3 more screens of filming us
Oh yeah, we could.
from a different camera view.
It'll be interesting when we ever do this live in person together. Totally different.
I think it'd be fun. But I think it'd be only fun if you do like one single episode and it's somewhere crazy like in the woods. He must have got his gummy bears.
Me? No,
Yeah.
I just my rental time on the beer was expired, so had to give it back.
Yeah.
Your rental time on your beer, huh? Who'd you give it back to?
You don't own beer, you just rent it.
So you got a new one this time? Different flavor?
Chetco Brewing Company.
Oh, Chetco.
Yeah, what
This
flavor
one here
is
is it's the Chloe Brown Ale, named after a friend here in Langlois. Well, she used to live here in Langlois. Her dog name was Chloe Brown. So
Not a sponsor though.
Is that
Not a
true?
sponsor.
That the beer is named after someone's dog from Langlois?
well, yeah, when she used to be here in Langlois, but she has moved on. But yeah, that's named after her dog, Chloe Brown.
So I think we'll end it there. Stay tuned for the Starter Pack series. And if you like this podcast, like this on YouTube, comment on YouTube, follow on Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, leave a review on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, 5 stars if you're liking what you're listening to. If you go to bikecampchill.com, you can submit your ideas and questions and we'll read them on one of our next podcasts. And we're going to be working on these. The plan is to come out with these bi-weekly, maybe on Wednesdays. And we'll just keep putting these out there, and we're hoping you'll join us. Come chill. Join the party.
Pedal up that hill. It'll be worth the thrill. If you got the power of will to bike and camp